I'll just put it out there. It gets darker, it gets twistier, it gets more fucked up in the best way possible. So I just put that out there.
I've learned across the first 2 seasons to now, the minute you really get to liking a character, you probably are gonna lose them. Like, do you ever feel bad when you realize, like, oh man, now, like, we wrote about killing this character but now we actually have to do it?
Being on set and seeing Annie, the actress who plays Miss Fairchild, interact with the other actors and what was happening, you can feel it that this is a beloved character that people are going to have hard feelings with how she goes out.
It's tough.
And also Annie is so sweet. She was 5 months pregnant when we were shooting these episodes. So that was like, we were kind of trying to hide that fact. Again, great actress, obviously. And a great sport for letting us, smother her with an American flag, or a prop American flag. You should just put that out there.
Sure.
I have to say that for legal reasons. Yeah, you know what? Again, I think it's a couple things. If anybody has, misgivings or is feeling hurt by that shocking death, again, I think it's a compliment. I think it's a compliment to Don and the writers that you actually give a shit about, one of these characters, where in a horror show where horrific things happen and you grow emotionally connected to these characters, and you want to feel that there's some stakes involved, because if everything is a little too safe, then there's no tension there. So yes, it's a beloved character, and she's been with everybody since the start in the very first episode with Jake. But it was, it's meant to not just be shock for shock value. The whole idea was it's going to galvanize our three amigos for what comes next, and really, further motivate them to take out Chucky. And if you're sitting there and it's not just like, well, that was a cool gory death and nothing. Again, also in an episode where Samantha, poor Samantha, also the secretary, is sort of like beheaded. You don't have the same. I mean, it's a fantastic death, right? But there's just not the same level of, you're not really tethered to that character as much. So we want to have those moments of Chucky mischief and the gore as well. But again, I think that people are always surprised of just like how emotionally connected they are to these characters in this series. And so again, all the credit goes to Don and the writers for building that out beautifully.
Well, speaking of, I guess, like what they're building and how all that tension is created and all that, it's kind of really fascinating to see this season is like Chucky almost in a political thriller. Like it's a very interesting style to take in, a season 3 of a show that's like very well established. You know what I mean?
Yep. Again, that goes back to Don about a year ago pitching this concept, and I thought it was really interesting. And what I thought was the best part was just how unexpected it was.
Yeah.
How in a million years, I never would have conceived, oh yeah, put Chucky in the White House. And again, not for any kind of political commentary or anything else, but just that it's a creepy old house. It is like your most iconic haunted house that you never see coming. And the fact that, Chucky as a character, as an icon, can constantly just be put in all these different situations, and it weirdly just fits. Like it feels very organic. And I think once you hear about this concept, and then once you actually sample it and kind of get to live in that world, you see it's like, oh, it's just a different family. The first family is truly they're kind of normal people at the end of the day. And the fact that there's sort of a killer doll running around in the halls of power, it just makes it all the more supercharged and crazy for what could happen next, because there is sort of unlimited power at his access. So that also makes it really, intriguing too from a horror concept, because, you know, you're always sort of trying to figure out, like, you know, how to sustain that level of tension, you know, over multiple episodes or storylines. And, you know, I think that the slow burn that Don and the writers have created this season has just been, you know, so carefully woven together. And I know that, you know, people are going to have to wait for the back half. We're hoping to shoot that as soon as the actors strike resolves. But I'll just put it out there. It gets darker, it gets twistier, it gets more fucked up in the best way possible. So I just put that out there.
That's so exciting. And you know, speaking of the first family, I mean, one of the things that I had in my notes that I wanted to address is just casting Callum in that role as the young boy. I mean, he is such a terrific little actor, young actor. And man, I've just been like finding myself like more and more like pulled in by his performance in the way that it's so similar to seeing Andy in that original movie. Like there's just something about it. But I wanted to ask about casting him and what you guys saw that you felt was going to be the right, you know, the right chemistry.
We saw a lot of great young actors for that role, and there was something just so innocent and precocious about Callum, but also there was something just very there was like just a sense of loss that he could deliver in the lines, and you just didn't feel like, oh, this is sort of a cute kid out of central casting, you know, who kind of winks at the camera and can kind of say his lines. There was a real performance, even just in the audition, that kind of blew us away, and the idea that you would feel like, oh, this isn't just performative for the sake of like, oh, like what a cute kid he is, but it really felt like, you know, knowing the backstory of you know, that he had a brother that had passed away, and that, you know, that there's still, you know, processing to be done. It felt like that there were more layers that we wanted to know and sort of see him deliver. And so it was a pretty smooth process bringing him on. I think we were all kind of unanimous when we saw him read. And I also want to say Jackson, who plays his older brother, is a fantastic actor as well. And their chemistry together, and with LJ, who plays the first lady, you know, and obviously Devin, who's beloved and, you know, is just such a class act. You know, that unit, you know, sort of seeing them together interact, like it just felt like there wasn't a rehearsal that was necessary. Like they just kind of got into the room, and it felt like, oh yeah, it's so obvious. This is the first family. They were all very comfortable with each other. And again, when you it's so trite, but you get great actors and they just, you know, sort of do their thing, and you just get the hell out of the way.
Listen, Alex, it's been awesome chatting with you today. I really appreciate you giving me some awesome insight on the show. I'm very excited about where it's going, and I really appreciate you taking time to chat today.